Hi, I'm Jenkins, Extension Educator for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Extension. Welcome to the final Small Business Special Edition of the Power of Business, or Small Business Week edition of the Power of Business Friday 15. Today I'm here with George Johnson, owner and founder of George Paul Vinegar. We're sitting in his vinegary, which is located in the small town of Cody, Nebraska. Thanks for joining us today, George. It's extremely uncommon to find people making vinegar the old-fashioned way. Would you mind sharing with us how you got started?
Certainly. We actually started planting some grapes in the year of about 2000. It was just a hobby at the time, something that I was looking forward to doing when I retired completely, and a few other friends started planting some grapes as well in ensuing years, and we got into about 2004, and we realized we were going to have a lot more grapes than we could actually make wine for to give away, and so we really needed to figure out a way to try to capitalize on utilizing the grapes. We've been making wine for years from wild fruits, and then, of course, the grapes we were growing and our friends were growing just for ourselves and our friends. And a friend of my daughter's that helped me start the business, Emily, suggested that we make some vinegars. The French American hybrid grapes that we grow in this region that are very cold hardy have a very fruit forward, bit of a higher acid content, and the wines are very distinctive. And he suggested that we do this, and he didn't let up. He kept asking if we'd ever made any vinegar. So we finally decided, well, maybe this vinegar thing, maybe we ought to take a look at it. So I did some informal research in the tasting rooms at a lot of the wineries in California, and I started buying lots of the high-quality gourmet vinegars in specialty food shops and tasting them and whatnot, and decided that maybe we could do this. And so I took the idea to the Food Processing Center at the University of Nebraska and told them what my thoughts were. And so they suggested that we do a feasibility study. USDA had a program available then to provide some matching grants to do a feasibility study for a startup business on a value-added ag product, which is what ours definitely was. And so we did do that, spent a year studying the potential of the business, brought in consultants and bought marketing data, and in the end result, their folks thought that the odds of success were extremely high if, in fact, we could make a high-quality vinegar. By this time, we were making some small quantities, countertop type, quarts, half-gallon, crocks, jars type vinegars. A lot of hit and misses, and had been researching it, looking for more information on it to make it in the traditional old-world fashion, not in the modern industrial methods that all of your grocery store vinegars are made by. And so, at any rate, after we got the feasibility study results back, then they helped us get some more matching funds to help build our facility and to equip it and to help with some of the startup operating costs. And so we over a period of another year and a half, we went through that process and built our straw bale vinegar and equipped it with lots of very expensive stainless steel equipment, and then started scaling up our vinegar business. And when we scaled it up from our small quantities to the large quantities, we ended up having a lot of problems. Things didn't work as well, they didn't work the same, and so it actually took us a couple of years to iron all of that out and get it to the point where we had finished vinegars that we could put in a bottle and sell. And so we had our open house in the fall of 2009. So we were actually in process for about 5 years from idea to finally getting a product in the bottle. And we got rave reviews from lots of foodies, chefs, well, not the chefs at that point, but people that understood good quality vinegars. And then in early 2010, I started taking the vinegars to some of the more famous, well-recognized restaurants in the Omaha, Lincoln metropolitan areas, and we got rave reviews. Some of them had actually been trained in Europe, said that they'd never tasted vinegars the quality that what we were making. And so at that point, we thought, we really might be onto something, and so we have been increasing our production ever since then to try to supply the increasing demand for the product. To this point, we've had a lot of offers from national distributors to handle our vinegars and distribute them around the country, which we've turned them all down basically because at this point we have retail customers in every state and a lot of specialty gourmet food stores scattered across the country from coast to coast, and it's they pretty well we've been able to sell about as much as we can produce because it's a much slower process, and so we are expanding our production dramatically, trying to scale it up to where we can actually start taking some of those wholesale orders. But at any rate, it was just a hobby, a retirement hobby that got out of hand, and but as it turns out, it's really working pretty well, very well. So,
and so you said you got help from the USDA program and this food processing center. You, as an aside, both of those programs that helped you get started are not available in the form. Do I understand that right? They're not currently available in the form, which is unfortunate.
That's true. We wouldn't have started our business without all of the assistance from the Food Processing Center because their focus at that time was on helping Nebraska companies take countertop food ideas and businesses and scaling them up to commercial grade size food production companies. And without their help, we wouldn't have gotten it done. And then, of course, with the USDA Value-Added Ag program for grants and loans, without that assistance, it wouldn't have happened. And then, of course, Nebraska Department of Economic Development also had some LB90 funds that were available to help with the brick and mortar construction, which that's very, very hard not to crack when you're looking for low interest loans or grants. You can oftentimes get them for operating expenses, but hardly ever for brick and mortar. And that was available. So all of those programs from Nebraska Rural Development, Economic Development Department, USDA, Ag, Food Processing Center, all of those programs are gone. They're not available anymore. They're not being funded. And so the focus is kind of changed, unfortunately, because I could tell a dozen stories of small food companies in Nebraska that went through the same processes that I did that are now larger commercial type operations supporting families.
So that's sort of the theme of today, is asking for help and getting help. And I'm sure, how did you initially did you spend a lot of time on the internet searching for information? Did you try to pick other people's brains? How did you, other than the Food Processing Center, was that like the first step, or did you do other steps before you decided to take it to the Food Processing Center? I don't know whether they're probably not experts in making vinegar either.
No, they weren't. Although one of their research scientists did provide us some good input with regard to some freezing processes to help concentrate juices to concentrate flavors as well in some of our vinegars. But really, we had to learn how to make vinegar in the traditional old world fashion on our own, basically. And I searched far and wide for a living vinegar maker that knew how to do that, and did not find one. Actually, eventually found a retired biochemist in California that worked for a French yeast company in his 80s, and he helped us probably as much as anyone did, because he traveled the world and knew a lot of vinegar makers in Europe that still make vinegar the traditional way. And it was a matter of, like you said, spending literally hundreds of hours on the internet researching and trying to learn the science of traditional vinegar making and all of the chemistry involved when the acetobacter can convert the alcohol in the wine to acetic acid, and of course a lot of it we just had to learn on our own by experimentation. And once we got the facility built and we got our lab built so that we could start monitoring the cultures, the vinegar cultures and the acetobacter under our microscope, and taking accurate pH and titrating acidity levels and everything, and doing that about every 2 weeks, and charting all of that, then we started to figure out what was good and what wasn't good, and what worked better and what didn't work better. So, but we essentially had to figure a lot of it out of our own. That's why it took us about 4 years to get it done.
Took us a long. And so, George, this vinegar, this is not the first business you've ever started. In fact, I like to say that you were a serial entrepreneur before anybody invented the term serial entrepreneur. So, so because you've started several businesses, is there some theme, sort of advice that you would give other folks starting businesses? Well,
the advice I give to young folks that come to me that are interested in starting their own business or have an idea or whatever, I advise them to find someone that's in the business of either doing what you want to do or a similar business, or someone that you really admire that's a successful entrepreneur, and just go to them and just tell them what you're planning to do, and just ask them for their advice. And I've never been turned down when I've done that. I've gotten into situations, businesses where I got in over my head, or I just got into situations I didn't know what to do, and so I just went to people that I respected and that were successful, and told them what was going on and asked for their advice, and they've always been willing to help me and advise me, and that's kept me from stepping in a lot of holes, and enabled me to turn some of the businesses into successes that I probably wouldn't have had I not asked for help and advice. It's a matter of setting your ego aside and your pride and everything else, and going to someone that is successful that you respect, and just telling them that you got a problem, or you can't figure it out, or you want to do something, you want to build a business. How can you help me do it? Can you give me some advice? And entrepreneurs normally are more than happy to do that. They'll normally just spill their guts to you, basically. They'll just tell you everything that they can to help you. That's great. That's good. So we got a question that somebody asked. How did you make your connections with the retail outlets in every state? Actually, it was all word of mouth and media attention, because we have never advertised. And I asked the retail store connections, whenever they contact me wondering if I will sell them vinegar, I always ask them how they found out about us. And normally it's because they read an article in the Wall Street Journal or Food and Wine magazine, or maybe if there's a chef that they know or is connected with their business, that he heard about our vinegars from another chef, something to that effect. It's been literally all media, free media articles, and word of mouth, because it's a unique story. Our packaging is extraordinary. We knew it would have to be. That was one element of our business that we knew we had to nail, and we actually spent about a year developing our packages. Our 100 ml bottles come from Italy. We have special corks made in Portugal, and my daughter, who helped me start the business, is also a letterpress printer and a graphic design artist. And so she not only was able to build our website, but she did all of our design work and helped pull the package together. And we get a lot of comment on how our packaging just is. We really nailed it on that it's just very, very upscale, because our prices are very upscale. I mean, we don't pretend to compete on price, because there's no one else that has a product like ours, and so we do. It's a very expensive product compared to grocery store vinegars. So.
Yeah, but y'all should know it does not taste anything like grocery store vinegars. I mean, we're talking word of mouth. Yeah, that's word of mouth spreads within the food industry when there's a product as unique as yours. There's basically nobody else in America making something like your product, and it is very attractively priced. Always this George's raspberry vinegar. I like to eat it on vanilla ice cream. It actually makes a really expensive bowl of ice cream, so I don't do it very often. But just think, how often would you put vinegar on ice cream of any sort? But it's absolutely awesome. So it looks like we're out of time, George. George's website, if you're interested, is georgepaulvinegar.com, and you can go online and just check out more about George's story, and his email's there and his phone number's there. And, of course, you're more than welcome to order some vinegar. Thanks, George, for your great advice. George and I actually live in the small town of Cody, so we see each other often, get a chance to chat. Would like those of you who are on the chat to remember next Friday 15 chat is June 6th. Featuring Edgar Oliveira. Look forward to seeing you online then as well. Thanks.
And if anybody wants to call me directly and ask me questions or anything, feel free to do that. All entrepreneurs are more than welcome. You just don't be afraid to call people, and you're certainly able to call me anytime.